We can't borrow anymore. We have to share the burden. That's the justification by government to Ghanaians as they introduce new taxes, which some have rejected, insisting they will impact negatively on their finances and increase their hardships. Now, the new taxes announced during last week's budget presentation include 1% COVID-19 levy, sanitation levy, and increment in prices of petroleum products. Some Ghanaians have been reacting, and they say the new taxes will increase their hardships.
I feel burdened, actually. These taxes are needless, I think. I think they are very, very needless. Putting pressure on us after the COVID, among other things, putting pressure on us you are trying to break us down. I believe there could be other ways, other means of getting these things, and getting the ways of getting these taxes might come from other sources other than taxing we Ghanaians. You know, because we Ghanaians at this moment, people have lost their jobs. People are now they are just down. And you're going to put this thing back on us. You know, it's putting more pressure on us, and I think it's needless.
There are some things that the government is supporting us a lot. Like me, the time I was in school, I went to school free. I didn't pay anything. So if they say we should do certain things, then I'm ready to pay.
You know, tax is one of the means of government raising revenue to develop the country. And over the years, that has been the method that they have been using. So we students and other stakeholders feel that if there's a better way of raising funds to develop the country, instead of always depending or taxing the poor citizens, okay, something like the COVID-19 levy and some other 1% levy, I think is a serious burden on we the citizens. So if state authorities can look at it and have other better means of raising funds instead of always taxing us. Okay. Looking at, there are so many loopholes in the how do you call it, in the tax collection system, revenue mobilization. Yeah, so I think that if they should rather, you know, that's why it's good that the government is trying to bring the digitalization and also the connecting of all the ID cards, so that if there's a better way of even taxing the non-tax people. I think that if they're able to block those loopholes, it will help us. Yeah.
Because fuel, not to fuel. And so I was trying to get back into the country, and it's a so any bring our experience.
Any bring number.
So what was our only bring area drivers? So drivers we fuel now motum. Yeah, to fair, to fair him. To fair passengers to Bakusa and to be able to fuel.
Great. So you're hearing him say that this is going to take a real toll on their operations. This gentleman is here, and he seems really incensed about the introductions that we've seen. I said, when in Nyamana course on home.
Because we are Papa any because I did send you fuel no mutumusa. See ya koto fuel. I did bet see atum. Odo galambako and I did say I did bet never could say. And seems say GPR for no more demand, so Muntimin Kasama. Omuna, Omu penny for Omuno Mutimaka Yatu film. And Sana you be a Timmy Fire Pen to film, GPR for no more. But it seems almost so on my co Muntimin Kasama. I am a so yeah, bread. You see, you might in tofu near the cow and the Akomana, near Bettina Pine. From Miss Akadi, I say, two no cry, Sabbath to my car. Yakwana so sang yet. Dear Chateau, can't be a Befasubianya. Quite be a before Subianya. He said, I'm poor Dava for the Abana, yes, Rena, Bonia, yes, Reno, or for a born in chair, and also on Shaby, I bread, yeah, Branca Sanga, I bread.
So he makes a point categorically and really quite instructively that, they've been paying tolls for God knows how long, but essentially the tolls that they pay do not translate into the betterment, or if you like, the improvement of the quality of roads on which they drive. And for him, he's made it quite categorically clear that for them, their impression of the current government is that for drivers, etc., and their mates, you know, they don't seem to have been considered by the government at all.
Let's learn some more. Here in the studio with us is Benjamin Yeboah. He is the National Welfare Officer, an executive member of Ghana Union of Traders Association, GUTA. Mr. Yeboah, it's good to have you. Now, your union doesn't seem to be taking these new taxes very well. Were you consulted?
Yeah, so good afternoon to your cherished viewers. See, Kojo, that's where the problem is. We have that rapport with the finance ministry and with GRA. Unfortunately, we were not consulted on this, especially this 1% levy on VAT. See, VAT as a consumption tax, immediately you increase it, it affects everything. Prices of goods and services goes up immediately. We would have thought that they would have met us, but even though they did not, we were given that caution that they should be careful they don't increase any tax. Why? Because we knew that per the rollout of these MBSSI, COVID relief funds, a lot of people went for these TIN numbers, these tax identification numbers, and therefore meaning that now government GRA has a vast array of people whom they could relatively take some taxes from, therefore widening the tax net, meaning you don't really have to introduce any new tax. Then you introduce this one, because now you see what is going on. Now we are talking of the 1% VAT, the financial institutions, even though the 5% before profit before tax is going to help clear the problems. The fuel is actually going to check on sanitation, pollution, and all that. Even that is what these taxes are meant for. It has overshadowed what they were telling us. You see, they are suspending income tax stamp payment for small-scale businesses.
That's good, right?
They are suspending vehicular income tax for trucks. You see, they are not even talking about it, of their second, third, and quarter. A tax relief of 30% on corporate income tax for hotels, restaurants, education and entertainment, travel and tours. They are waiving penalty on interest on accumulated tax arrears up to December 2020 for companies and individuals. And there's even Maslow that's going to disburse some 50 million to small scale businesses. You see, immediately you increase tax, it overshadows these things.
So should GUTA not be pushing that message so that your members understand?
But it is not our job per se. That is why there's collaboration, that's stakeholder meetings. If finance ministry has taken us along that road, we would all have judged through that, spoken to our members, so that now it will be easier for us to explain to our members. Because now people will be looking at what is going to pinch them, rather than what they may even be getting. There's not even going to be still continuous free water, electricity for low-like consumers and all that. But we are not talking about it. So that's the mistake of government.
Now, the reality is that even though you may have identified a certain opportunity for the tax net to widen, the GRA will still have to find the manpower to do the work of finding these people and enforcing the tax laws and actually retrieving the funds. So is it not practical for an increase to be in some of the taxes to be implemented just to raise the revenue for GRA to then be able to mobilize and then practicalize the widening of the tax net?
Two things, Kojo. First and foremost, we were having this collaboration with GRA purposely to, sensitize our members in the need to, pay tax, or they should pay their taxes regularly on time, and also to ensure that there is that understanding for they doing so. So we were having that rapport until COVID, came in, but still it shouldn't stop it. There's still that avenue for us to do that. And then to this digitalization, what is it meant for? It's meant to, plug loopholes in certain areas that could help rake in more revenue for government. So they should have looked at these two things, and then we can all sit by the table and see how best we can fashion this thing out without necessarily, putting, and even if you should do that, then the communication and the education should have been even before the budget. Now there's going to be huge, burden on government and through her communicators, through the Ministry of Information, to try and educate Ghanaians and then to show cause in terms of figures, the justification why there should be an increment in these areas.
So if they had brought you to the table from the beginning, what would GUTA's advice have been?
Now our advice would have looked at what they have now. Now, here we're having just about 1.5 million people on, government roll that they collect taxes from. What has tin numbers done? Tin numbers now has brought in a wider gap in terms of those who are on tin now that you can reach. So how would you be able to reach? How would you need our help as an association in terms of reaching out to all these people to take in something small? Rather, here you are, they've moved these people out of the tax net. You stop this tax stamp from smaller businesses. So you move them out of the net. So now the burden is now going to be still on the few who keep on paying. And I think if they had met us, we would have drawn the attention to these things. So that even if there are some leaves you don't even put in. Yes, the total people talking about the petrol that you want to increase to check that sanitation and pollution. They are not even talking about their second, third, and fourth quarter that you are relieving them from. So you could have stopped, let them pay that one, and then stop the levy. So you get your income from that one rather than putting in that few persons which will accumulate to bigger money though. But then, so that they don't talk, now they are talking. You see, now they are talking.
Is it too late? Can GUTA not be brought in to the discourse about implementation?
Yeah, it's not too late, but then now the onus lies on government and its apparatus to try and come out with figures to show reason why and to try and convince us all, because as they convince us, then we have to go back to our members for them to understand. As a consumption tax is going to affect prices, unfortunately so. That is one thing we should all look at. It's like taking the thing from one person and giving it to another person. Not robbing, but taking it from Peter and giving it to Paul. You understand? It really doesn't play so well. It doesn't help government in its image. It doesn't help businesses because now we are all crying, even though there are some reliefs elsewhere. So I think they really did not get it right. If they had done the consultation right, we could have advised them on these sort of things. Yeah, we are Mokola, they say Mokola, what do you call it? Mokola economics. But I'll tell you, the Mokola economics at times really works if they are consulted. It's not late though. We can still continue with the consultation.
Now, I don't know if you, well, I'm sure you've heard it before, but whether you will accept it. There is a certain perception of GUTA members, well, not just GUTA members, but those of you who operate, in the marketplace. There is a certain perception that when reductions are achieved, when taxes come down or when certain levies come down, you never pass them on to the customer. But when there is an increase, immediately we see you increasing your prices, sometimes disproportionately. So for example, there's a 1% VAT increase. We're going to see more than 1% increase in the total price of the product, even though it's only the VAT that's going up by 1%.
It's not wholly true. The point is that we are in an open market sector where the demand and supply comes to play. I mean, if the items are on the market, you as the seller, you can't just arbitrarily increase your prices. I mean, the other person will still maintain the prices and sell. But then if wholly prices go up from the importer or the supplier, it will affect all those in the middle chain, and they have to put it on, unfortunately. But then if it doesn't, the increment is not that much, someone has so much stock, and the person maintains his or her price, it will be difficult for you, the other person, increasing your price. So it's not wholly true that we do that, no. We are in business to make some income. If you go to the market, you sold nothing, what have you done? Your friend would have sold and made some money.
But the prices never come down, no matter what happens.
You will be surprised at times it comes down. If something comes down, I'll let you know this thing has come down in prices.
Yeah, I mean, if we take the welfare officer to inform us that the price has gone down before we know it, then it means
people reduce some prices.
Market.
Listen, people reduce prices for other reasons. Sometimes the person wants to take some goods out of the pot. He needs money. he or she can reduce the price. The person want to clear old stocks, they reduce price. About so kind during Christmas festivities, and so they reduce their prices so they can make some market.
We're talking about the general price reductions. For example, the cost of fuel goes down. We don't see it reflected in the cost of goods.
It takes a while because the person might have taken some items when the price of fuel was at this price. If the items are still there, you can't at once go and reduce them. It takes a while, but it can still reflect if the price stays so. I mean, it's the normal demand, supply, and market, workers. It happens. It's just not true that people increase prices arbitrarily. No, it's not so.
No, not arbitrarily. What we're saying is that when the price
comes down,
it doesn't come down.
It will have its correspondent downward. And you should know that it's not a particular thing that will just generally like price come down. There are other forces that the person has to look at to be able to fix the price. But still the market syndrome will come in.
Right. So going forward, now that the government has expressed its intent when it comes to these taxes, by the way, government has been known to change its mind on taxes before. Does GUTA want that? Does GUTA want to put pressure on government to change its mind on these increases?
The point is that government, unfortunately, has a very strong tax in parliament, where it's almost a divided parliament. And therefore, they are not going to have it easy there. That's why it's always important taking the people along if you do something. Because if we, as businesses, traders, we support any move, it becomes difficult for our representatives in parliament to go against it. So I think the onus lies on them to try and explain to us or sit down with us. Let us start looking at the figures and for us to understand why so, why there wasn't any other alternative for them to do so, but rather stick to this increment. I mean, what you just shown us is an ample fact that now people are rather talking of increments rather than the relief they've gotten. And that is human nature. I mean, unfortunately so.
I want to thank you for your time. We appreciate the enlightenment.
Right.